We're covering this historic Harris presidential bid. The Guardian says her candidacy marks a generational shift with this extraordinary time in American history. Harris, of course, is building on a record that got her all the way up to a heartbeat from the presidency. It's no small thing becoming vice president, the first woman to serve in that office, as you know. And that builds on trailblazers across history. Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin, both getting up to that level at the nomination level in their parties. Hillary Clinton, who not only shattered a glass ceiling, but won more votes in 2016. When people say, oh, is this possible? Would people support a woman as president? She did win more votes. We're the only democracy in the world where the location of the votes matters more than if you get more of them. That's a story for another day. Or take Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman elected to Congress, the first to run for president, as a means to push her party and to try to push black leadership to a new level.
Friends, I am a candidate for the presidency of the United States. I make that statement proudly, in the full knowledge that as a black person and a female person, I do not have a chance of actually gaining that office in this election year. I make that statement seriously, knowing that my candidacy itself can change the face and future of American politics.
Fact check, true, and what an interesting way to push people, acknowledging that doubt up front and then demanding people reckon with why there should be such doubt, why it would be automatic that a woman, quote unquote, could not be president, let alone a black woman at that time. Now, before getting to where she is today, Harris was the only black woman serving at the time in the Senate, and there was only one black female senator before her, Illinois' Carol Moseley Braun, who got that job in '93 and ran on a platform of women's issues, civil rights, economic justice, and took to the Senate floor in her first year to protest the renewal of what was then something that, prior to her being there, was apparently the normal course of action, a congressional patent that basically normalized a Confederate group.
I've got to tell you, this vote is about race. It is about racial symbolism. It is about racial symbols. It is about our racial past, and it is about the single most painful episode in American history.
As I mentioned, we're about to hear from Senator Braun, so I won't go too on and on about this, but I will tell you that if you look at people who have more than one fight to deal with in American society, there's the racial thing and then there's the gender thing, right? She's dealing with both, as other people have. So even apart from race, which we've touched on tonight, she joined a Senate that at the time required women to wear dresses and were not allowed to wear pants when they went on the Senate floor. Just think about that. It was a kind of an unofficial ban on pants within the dress code. Here's how Miss described it. There was a rebellion. The willingness of Braun to appear wearing trousers was that rebellion, and ultimately a big deal. So, on matters big and small, we have to deal with the world as it is, make sure people understand what it is, and then question, do we want to change it? And who are we? Are we everybody? Ideally, in society, in a democracy, the answer should be easy. The answer should be yes. Anyone and everyone can serve. We are joined now by Carol Moseley Braun, the former senator from Illinois, the first black woman to serve in that body. She ran for president in 2004 and also served as U.S. ambassador. Ambassador Braun, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Tell us what you've been thinking about since Sunday when the president endorsed his vice president, since she clinched the delegates and the days after, on through this week.
I'm over the moon and strongly supporting Kamala. Anything I can do to help get her elected. We have 98 more days to the election itself, and we all have to show up and be there for her and take advantage, not let this enthusiasm dwindle, which people have short memories sometimes. But if we can keep the drumbeat going, we can have our first woman president. And she's well competent, qualified for this job. She's very competent, and she has checked all the boxes. So I just hope we can come together and do it.
In your path, which we showed a little bit moments ago, what did you deal with that you expected? And what, if anything, was unexpected or kind of came at you in the Senate that might be relevant to her or at least of interest to our viewers?
I used to call it hyperspace because so much came at me so quickly that I did not expect it at all. And so I had to try to be nimble enough to manage that situation and to handle all the barbs and all the criticisms and all the stuff that was thrown at me, some of which was true and most of which was not. I just had to deal with it. And so my advice to if she wanted it, would be don't let them get under your skin. You know, you just have to, she probably knows this already. I know she does. But if she just maintain her composure, keep saying what she believes in, and speak directly to the hearts and minds of the American people, she'll be fine.
There's a line from you in history to Obama to her. One of the reasons that we've seen more representation that looks more like America in the House than the Senate is it's all cut up in the districts. News junkies, political junkies know that. A lot of people don't realize, right, that when we say senator, big job, it's for the state. It's a geographic job. But it has been harder historically for minorities to win statewide. You did it, as mentioned. Obama did it. Harris campaigned for him. I want to show a little bit of that as we look at all of these interesting linkages. Take a look.
I remember being in Iowa, Des Moines. It was really, really cold. Christmas through New Year's, and everybody was there. You know, us Californians, we didn't really know what to wear. So we just layered. The president and we just celebrated his first 100 days, and we couldn't be more proud because it was the most work that any elected president of the United States in recent memory has actually accomplished. Not just talk, but accomplished. From his first days, he did what he promised us he would do, and he has only just begun.
What do you see as the linkages here in what is still a relatively select group? As I mentioned in my introduction to you, a group that we would hope would continue to grow and enlarge in both parties, by the way. And what do you say to the political folks, the operatives, who, separate from inspiration, are concerned that Kamala will have to do something that is different than other officials? She will be, in many states that have never had a black governor, a black woman governor or senator, she'll have to get that state electorate comfortable with that statewide, and they've never had a practice session, if you will.
But that's what democracy is about, is opening up the doors and letting everybody participate and contribute to keeping our country strong. I mean, this is quintessential democracy test. And she is up to it because she's already shown that she can do the job. She's already shown that she knows how government should work and that she's on the side of the people. So as long as we keep focused in on what's in the public interest, I believe we will do well and protect our country.
And on the politics, Trump had welcomed the first Biden debate. Many people would say it worked out better for Trump than Biden. We all lived through that. Now, though, he has not signaled the same willingness to debate her. What do you make of that?
Fear. Fear and cowardice, if you will. He's just a chicken, and you can quote me on that one. He's just a quick chicken, and he's a bully. He picks on people he thinks he can get away with. You know, he can get away with it by picking on them, calling them names, calling them out of their names, and just being silly. You know, things that nobody else would do. You know, corrupt Joe. Like, what are you talking about? You know, you're the felon. Like, excuse me, you know, here's a felon calling somebody else a corrupt. Who ever heard of such a thing? So I think that she's more than able to take him on, to speak truth to power, to speak truth to him, and to repulse any of those kinds of insults back at him.